So my job is to be the liaison between our company, which is called Massive Capital, and the people that are listening to this, that need to help to get their deal done. They need a sponsor. They need help with fundraising. They need help on how to do it. So contact me for that, because I can help you take your deal to the finish line and get it funded, because multifamily is a team sport and you cannot go it alone. Trust me, I tried.
Welcome to this episode of the Success Story of Real Estate Investors. Hi, my name is Brooke Ceballos Pinheiro. I'll be your host for today. Our goal is to highlight deal makers who close on their first apartment deals and the Michael Blanc products or programs that help them along the way. Let's get to it. Today we have Brad Pickett of Titan Acquisitions. What's happening, Brad? How you doing, man?
Hey, Brooke. Awesome. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Long time no see. I see you everywhere.
Yeah, we
like
do see each
brother.
other quite a bit.
Yeah. Like my brother from another mother.
That's right. Yeah, when
Right.
you get going full time with multifamily, you run into the same people, don't you?
You're right. Watch out. It's a smaller ecosystem than you think, right?
It is, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing now, and a little backstory of how you got to where you're at today.
Okay, so I grew up in Idaho on a potato farm, and that was really awesome because I got taught how to work really hard. And from the time I was a kid, I just wanted to be in real estate. And it might sound silly, but I just looked at people that had a lot of money, and I saw one common denominator with all of them. And they all had a lot of real estate. They were somehow in real estate. So I'm like, real estate equals money, and who doesn't want money, right? So that was my initial reason for getting into real estate. Graduated from college, went down to San Diego, started out as a loan officer, did that for a while. Went from a really rough start in this place called Beneficial Finance, which later on got shut down in the subprime crisis or whatever they call that. But so I learned how to sell really high interest rates, and it was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me, because I could sell about anything, and I was making, 150, 200 cold calls a day. And so from there, I became some of the people were recruiting to work in mortgage. And so I went on to be a loan officer at a little bit more of a reputable company. And then I became a title rep, which was really cool because I had this guy coming into our loan group, and he's driving a BMW and taking us to happy hour. And I'm like, dude, what is your job? Like, how do I do what this guy's doing?
Give me some of that.
All he does is schmooze people, and he has an expense account. And I'm like, I want your job. So he's like, call this guy, and I'll give a shout out to John Wall. He's like, call John Wall with Fidelity Title in San Diego. And so I call him like 10 times. He never calls me back. And then like 2 months later, he calls me back. He's like, you learned the first lesson in title, persistency. And by the way, that's a good lesson for all of real estate, right? So anyway, got to work with them, was doing really well. Hosting events at Petco Park and meeting all the brokers. I was meeting both real estate brokers and lenders. And then I started looking at their HUDs, their closing statements, and I'm like, these guys are making like, 6 figures a month plus. And I'm just like, holy cow, this is crazy. So then I'm like, okay, I got to get my broker's license. So got my broker's license in California and started a mortgage company. And this was right when the subprime meltdown came. And it was never really a big company, but I learned a lot, had about 6 employees, and we were doing a lot of subprime loans. And then that all just went, and the subprime meltdown went away. And so from there, I hung out at the beach and surfed for a while, built a custom chopper in my garage, and sold that to...
Don't lie. You don't gotta lie to be cool, Brad.
I'll show you photos of it. And I actually sold it to the lead guitarist of Avenged Sevenfold. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Michael's team, can we check that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. It's also in my book. You can check that out. So then I ended up coming back up to Idaho, where I'm from, and I transferred my mortgage broker's license. Actually, in California at the time, a mortgage broker's license and a real estate license was the same broker license. And I transferred it up to Idaho, took the little test, and then I started doing a lot of, I started a real estate brokerage, had probably about 5 or 6 agents, and we started doing a lot of short sales. And we were purchasing short sales and flipping short sales. And long story short, the whole thing crashed in like 2009. I went from being really successful to like $0. And I think a lot of people have that story, right? In that time period. And so then I went back home to Burley, my hometown, and became a firefighter. And I was like, the whole time I'm like, I can't stop. Real estate's who I am. Like, I got to do real estate. So
Now
I
you're a
learned how to do.
firefighter?
Yeah,
Dang.
I was a
Didn't cut
firefighter
me off.
EMT for
Think you're a
6 years.
firefighter. Sorry to interrupt, but what do you not do, Brad? That's
Well,
fabulous. That's very
it's always been it's always been real estate in the background. So I ended up going to getting a mentor, which is the only shortcut in business. Like, for whoever's listening to this, don't be afraid to spend money on a mentor, because they say there's no shortcuts in business, but I would say the only argument to that is the one shortcut in business is to hire somebody that's already done what you want to do. And maybe they're not good at something else, but you just find a person that has done what you want to do, and you pay them and they give you the shortcuts, and you learn from the mistakes. You don't have to make the same mistakes they did. So I hired a mentor to learn how to do creative financing. I bought 16 houses in 6 months with no banks, no credit, and none of my own money. And then I went on that year to buy 26 houses. That was 2014. So I had maybe mastered or got close to mastering creative financing and learning how to buy houses. And this kind of plays into multifamily too, because a lot of people, I'd say the biggest problem people have with real estate investing in general, whether that's multifamily or single family, is they're like, it takes a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money, or maybe I have money, but I need it for something else, or, they get scared. And when you realize that you can buy real estate with no money, that's a game changer. And people will tell you that, and you'll be like, yeah, I've heard that, but I don't think it's really true. But then when you actually do it, you're like, holy cow. So did that, decided I didn't want to stay in that little town. So I was reluctant to retire as a firefighter, because I really loved that job. It was really rewarding. I didn't like the politics, but I really enjoyed helping people. And I moved down to Phoenix, got into wholesaling, took a company to over $1 million in revenue in the first year I was there, and started doing a lot of transactional stuff. When I mean transactional, is meaning that single family homes are very transactional. And this kind of leads into why I love multifamily, because it's like, I would build this deal. I'd go find the seller. That's hard, right? I'd market like crazy, find the seller. Then I find the buyer. That's hard. I had to market, and I had to contract, and I had to make sure that nobody gets upset at each other. Then I got the title company. Then sometimes I got agents, and I'm just like, it's a house of cards, like waiting to fall. And it often does fall. And then when you get the check, it's like, okay, now start all over, do the whole thing again. And so I just got really sick of that. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so meanwhile, I was looking at multifamily, and I'm like, I knew that was where I should be. I don't know if it's where I was supposed to be, but it's where I should be. Because I had buddies that were buying islands and like living in Puerto Rico, and that they had been in multifamily the whole time. And here I am, like,
Yeah,
trying to do
Puerto
wholesale.
Rico. That's my goal, is to move our business to Puerto Rico. We have family in Bayamon, and it's one of my favorite places. So you just hit my heart. You just went up a couple points, Brad.
Yeah, good,
Puerto
man. I
Rico
love it
has
down
my
there.
heart. Mi gente. Yes, love it.
So I saw these guys are making all this money, and I'm like, and they weren't working like as hard. I mean, I'm sure they worked hard, but anyway, so I knew I needed to get into multifamily, but for me, it wasn't an easy thing to do. I'm like, okay, I conquered how to invest in real estate with single family, but with no money. But now I'm like, multifamily. I mean, dude, that's got to take a lot of money. I mean, these are 20, 40, $80 million buildings. I don't even know where to start. I've looked at it. I've learned how to underwrite them. I've learned a few things, but it was always like on the edge, but I never really got into it. And finally, I got so fed up with wholesaling, because the market got so saturated. There was a bunch of people teaching how to do it. And it just got to the point where I'm like, everybody and their dog's a wholesaler. I actually don't even want to be associated with that anymore. I mean, I got a lot of friends in that industry, but I just wanted to get out of it. I was like, I want to get out of this. And so I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I'm all in on multifamily. And that was, when was that? That was 2020 into 2021. So it's been not quite 2 years. And went all in, joined with Grant's Club. It's actually where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And within 6 months of joining that club, and also I was in a lot of groups. I was also in Michael Blanc's group. I was in the more you could network, the better. And after joining that club, within 6 months, I bought my first building, $12.8 million, 174 unit building. Within 6 months, with no banks. Well, there was a bank. No, none of my own money, none of my own credit. So guys, it can be done. And I just went crazy in my first year. I went on to write a book. I created a course. So I have a book on Amazon you can check out. It's 5 ways to buy apartments with zero down. And it literally takes you through how to do it. Like there's like 5 different ways to get into real estate with no money.
And it's a good book. I've read it, y'all. I was very blessed to get some of the first ones. He has a Titan Acquisition WhatsApp group, excellent for networking, which, sorry if I'm stealing some of his plugs for later, but that's how I was able to read it. And it's very clean, clear. Some of these books are very high level jargon. And if you're not in the field, it's kind of confusing, all the acronyms, right? Brad breaks it down very easy and digestible. So yeah, I highly recommend your book. It's easy to read.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people come into the industry, they all have the same questions. Like they're like, how do I present a deal to somebody? What are they looking for in the deal? Where do I find the deal? Who do I need on my team? What should I look for in my team? How do I meet my team? Like it's all the same stuff, right? And so I approached it from someone that's either getting their first or next deal. If maybe it's their second deal or third deal, it's for people that are just getting into the industry. And I did it just because in that WhatsApp group that we have, which is, as of recording this, is like a little over 500 people in there. The same questions just kept coming up. So I'm like, okay, let's just do a book on this. And it makes me sound smart, but really all I did was like turn on like a auto recorder and I just started talking. Actually, I wrote out an outline and then I just talked about each bullet point, and then I went back and changed, so.
How did Michael Blanc get involved in this? Where did he show up that helped you close your first deal? And where was that? I think I know where it was, the 12.8 million, 174 units. Was that Oklahoma or is that a different deal?
Yeah, that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Fabulous. How did Michael help you with that?
So the one thing that is just synonymous with Michael Blanc is his synthesizer. I think that's what it's called, or the software code. Yeah. It's so funny because it is like everybody uses that. And as a matter of fact, I haven't told you the latest part of my multifamily journey, but I was just using it right before I got on this call because I was analyzing another deal, and it seems to be it's simple enough that everybody can use it, but complex enough to do good underwriting with as well. And that's really important. So that's probably, I probably run into his, I use it. A lot of people that submit things use it. So I probably run into his, I guess I'll call it software. What is the actual name of it?
SDA, Syndicated Deal Analyzer. Yeah. So I have a couple. So some of the common questions that we get as well is, how did you overcome because you had mentioned that you were a broker, you were flipping houses or that industry. How did you leave what would be considered a stable income to doing something that is inconsistent?
That's a great question. And for me, my situations might be a little bit different than other people because I had multiple properties and I ended up just selling some of those as we went, but it was also at the height of the market. So, that funded my transition, or is still funding my transition. I still flip a few houses and some land here and there, but a lot of people deal with that, and we have a lot of people that are getting started that are still W-2, and I think it really comes down to how bad you want it. And I realize that it does. Real estate sounds sexy, multifamily sounds great, legacy wealth, right? All these things are possible, but when it comes down to it, is it you're probably going to have to keep your W-2 unless you have some savings, or you can get, there's not a lot of paying jobs in multifamily, right? There are some, but mostly you've got to buy the deal, and it's a 5-year process. It really is. So in all honesty, you almost have to be willing to work your W-2 plus 4 hours a day, or 2 hours some days, 3 hours other days. And Brooke, you can attest to that, right?
Yeah. So believe me, and I always advise people, you prioritize what's important. There's no Netflix and chilling for me. I have a demanding corporate job. We have kids. I do this in the weekends. I do this in my lunch breaks. I do
Yeah,
this nonstop. This is
yeah,
everyday relentless action. And I know Brad's the same way. There's no breaks when you're trying to do this, right? So, that's a good segue to my next question. Because this is such a grind and this is an all-encompassing journey, what is your mission and your vision? And the reason I ask that is because for me, that's what keeps me going. The days I don't want to get up and I'm just feeling like rocking back and forth in a corner, I just don't want to talk to people, right? What keeps
yeah.
you going? What's your vision? What's your mission? How do you stay motivated?
Yeah, I want to add to that last question too a little bit. I mean, of all the ventures that you can choose in life, I do believe multifamily can be the most rewarding. I really do. I mean, I think it's, a lot of people do different careers and there's nothing wrong with any different career. But if you're going to choose something, this one will really pay you over time. But it's just like anything that's good takes a lot of work in the beginning and then you get paid. Anything that pays you in the beginning, you better watch it because you're probably going to get something on the back end. Right. So,
Yeah.
and so,
Not what you were
that's
hoping,
why, what's that?
not what you were hoping for on the back end. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I have a higher purpose of kind of helping people. I just want people to achieve freedom and to kind of raise their vibration and see some of the things that are going on in this world that I don't agree with. And in order to do that, I need money. I've tried to just pursue spirituality and, helping people along those lines. So I'm a very spiritual person. It's really hard to make money doing that. And so you have to pick something in the world of commerce to do, right? And that's why, going back to the earlier comment, is that's why I picked multifamily, because it would really give me that ability to have the finances to make the impact in the world that I want to make and to, support the causes that I want to support, because I think that this world's going the wrong direction. So that's truly my passion. So multifamily is almost like it's a fuel for my ultimate purpose. My purpose isn't to, I do have goals of owning $1 billion in real estate and, other net worth goals and things like that. But those serve a higher purpose of being able to be a massive influence to uproot the corruption and things that are going on in this world that really bother me. And if people want more information on that, they can check out my group called Escape the Matrix on Facebook.
So it's funny you say escape the matrix. My husband's like, your ass is always in the matrix. You got like a laptop here, all of this stuff. So, and I feel like I'm in the matrix. I have so much stuff going on. That's why in the evening, like the phones are put away. Do not disturb, like leave me alone. I'm a hermit in the evening. So you hit on something that is about spirituality. And no, we're not going to get into God and religion and politics, but God does play a big part of this. And it doesn't matter whether you're speaking about the Buddhism philosophy or science as a form of evolution or God as an energy. There's always a higher purpose. So what my question is, how important is having your mental, your health, and your spirituality, I can't talk today, aligned with multifamily, with your goals?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it's important for anything you're trying to achieve, whether that's a happy marriage or a healthy body, or, there's the pillars in life that you have to take care of. You can't neglect any of those areas because they do come back to get you, whether that's your faith, whether that's your health, whether that's your relationships and your wealth. Like all of those things are really important. And it's taken me there's been so many lessons along the way. I mean, I'm 44 years old and I definitely don't have it figured out, but I've got it to the point where I'm respecting my body. I'm respecting source, I'm paying attention to my intuition. And I don't know. I've thought about that a lot, because I don't know if that's something you can teach people. They almost have to learn it on their own and figure, because all the information's out there, right? People know that you have to take care of those things, and they just don't do it until they suffer enough, and then they do it.
There you go. And see, and we really quick, and I wanted to see if you're okay on time. I know it's almost been 30 minutes. I still have a few questions for you. Are you okay to go a little bit longer?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, good. Okay, so So a few other common questions that we get a lot, and you kind of touched on some of this, was one, building a team. How do you build a team as well? And then two, how comfortable were you talking about money, raising millions of dollars?
Okay, so to build a team, instead of, well, there's twofold to this. So the first thing is to add value. And I know that's cliche, always add value before you ask for anything, but really, truly, like, just go out of your way to add value to as many people as you can in this industry, and you'll see who appreciates you, and you'll see kind of where it'll kind of direct itself, right? So you just pour in. Like, don't ever think about what you're going to get in return in the beginning. That's the biggest mistake you can make. So just give it, whatever that is, whether you're underwriting deals for people, you're raising money, you're networking, you're introducing people. Like, don't think about, well, if I introduce you to Joe, do I get a cut? Don't think about that. Just get the guys together, and they will see value in you, and the right people will come to you. I feel like the other side of that coin is, when you go on a team for multifamily, take your time to get to know those people, because it's worse than a marriage, meaning that you can't get a divorce.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to get a divorce, but if you're married to somebody and it turns out horrible, you can leave.
Correct.
Most cases, right? But in multifamily, if you've got an asset together, you can't. You mean, maybe you could buy the guy out or buy the girl out, but so just take your time with that, and look at one of the guys I work with now is talking about, do background checks on these people, man. Like, seriously, look into what they've done, find out where they're from, what they do, like, do a background check, get to know them, spend time with them, go look at how they keep their house, look at how they keep their car. Just look at this. I mean, because this is a big deal. And the problem with it is it's not just you that loses, it's all the people you promised money to as well. So take your time on that one. Be very careful.
I love that. That's something I preach all the time. It is a major pet peeve of mine when people connect with me and they think they should be paid for introducing me to somebody. I'm like, I would never, like, oh, what's my referral fee? What's my cut? And this has happened several times. So to all of those people who continuously reach out, hey, if I introduce you to this investor, what's in it for me? If that's how you're going to lead our relationship, don't reach out to me. Okay. Because you can't get paid for doing nothing. Come on. Like, anyways,
yeah, there's a cool thing I learned just recently, and I'll share it with the group, because this works for everything in life. It works for relationships. It works for business, fundraising, all of it. And that is, when you think about a trust, the way the whole world is set up on trusts. And what I mean by that is there's beneficiaries and there's trustees, right? So there's people that are going to benefit. So right now, whoever's watching this video, you're a beneficiary, and Brooke and I are the trustees. And if you go through life, the majority of the people are going through life trying to be a beneficiary. What's in it for me? How much are you going to pay me? What do I get? And every time you approach something as a beneficiary, you basically are repelling away exactly what you're looking for. If you can approach the entire world as a trustee and say, how can I serve this person in front of me right now? And always do that, you will have, even though you're doing, it's called service to others, even though you're doing that primarily, you will get more back. It's actually the most selfish, this sounds weird, thing that you can possibly do, because you get paid 100 times X. Instead of asking for the referral fee and making 10 grand, you're going to make 100 grand or $1 million. So approach the world as the trustee, not the beneficiary.
I love that. Approach the world as the trustee, not the beneficiary. We'll be quoting that. That is going to be on the social media marketing. You hear that, Lori Lynn, Madeline, Rob? That's fabulous. I love that. And so I want to make sure, let me see something. There was another question that I have. So what would you, actually, let's go back, talking about money. Were you always comfortable talking about money, or did you kind of have to get out of your own way?
I had to get out of my own way. I remember when I first became a real estate investor, I wasn't comfortable calling myself that, because in my mind, real estate investors had a lot of money. And when I told people, they're like, what do? I'm a real estate investor, like immediately they're like, oh, you must be rich. And I'm like, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm not rich. Like, so, but then it ended up flipping like 3 years later when all the people came out of the woodworks with all the courses and stuff. Then I didn't want to be a real estate investor for different reasons. But so yeah, I had to get over that. I had to get past that. And I had to realize that there's so many things you can say about money. It's just an energy, and it's a vehicle, and it's an exponential of whatever you already are, right? So you need money to make an influence. Even if your entire goal is to change the world, you're able to do it a lot better when you magnify it with money. That's for sure. So getting comfortable with money is really important, and being able to talk freely about it is important. But yeah, it takes time. You just have to learn that, I think, over time.
What word, if you can break it down to one word, Brad, describes your real estate journey, whether it's present or future?
I'll say the kingdom, because I'm building a kingdom, basically. I know that sounds crazy, but it's just like, I've got this vision of what I want. I want 1,300 acres in the mountains in Idaho for my summer house with an airstrip, and I want a house in
You sound
Scottsdale.
like me.
And I know what I want. It's like my own world, right? And so creating the kingdom, creating the legacy. That's kind of what it would be called. But the actual journey itself is, boy, there's a lot of things that fit in there. Unpredictable. It's like you never know what's coming next.
So unpredictable is good. I feel like I'm in the stock market, like it's a roller coaster, right? It's crazy.
It is.
It's
Yep.
crazy. So go ahead.
You can have intentions. You can have intentions, and you set goals. You set like these posts where you're heading towards, but those are just to kind of give you a direction. You never end up going to that very point. You know what I mean? It's always like somewhere else along the way. So
You have to be agile. You have to be very agile and flexible, be able to pivot real quick. Like the football player. What's up, move?
There you go, the juke.
Yeah, right. So what sources do you recommend, books, podcasts, YouTubes, that can help people? So this is a two-part question. One, what are some sources to help people that have helped you along your journey? Two,
Sure.
what do you say to people out there listening that are on the fence on joining multifamily?
Okay, so number one, there's a lot of really good teachers out there, and quite frankly, it's very affordable. I mean, I'm not going to list them all off, but there's a lot of good teachers. And even on my YouTube, I have a full course on how to get started for people that are just getting started. So they can check that out on my YouTube. It's just Brad.
And do that too, because that question's coming. Tell us where we can connect with you. So while you're sharing what to tell them when they're on the fence and your credible sources, please also advise what sources you provide so we can connect with you. So, and then we'll wrap it up. So get it.
Yeah. And if you're on the fence, I mean, that's I hate that term, because people
threw it out.
spend their whole life on the fence. And then
Right.
like there's this parable of you're lying in your deathbed and you've got all these ghosts coming up to you, and they were all the different futures, all the success you could have had. And they're like, Brad, we came to you and you let us down. Like we could have done all these things in the world. It's like, man, just do it and then do it. Like stick to it, like really stick to it, because multifamily is not a flash in the pan. That's one thing. We see a lot of people come and go, probably about 50% of them, maybe more. You have to stick to it. And if you do, this will pay you more than anything that I've seen, in the world, that as far as jobs that we have to do, we have to work and we have to make money. And this is one of the best ones to choose, but be committed and just go all in.
I love it. Credible sources. Where can we send people also I know you have some amazing sources, and any books, podcasts, credible sources. How can we connect with you? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, hook us up.
Yeah, so
send us home.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to talk about, I'm actually in a new position with a company that's doing really well. They funded 9 deals in the last year and over 100 million. And my job is the vice president of business development. So what I do, like each week, I go through like 15 multifamily deals. I mean, I've been learning so much and learning how to analyze. And So my job is to be the liaison between our company, which is called Massive Capital, and the people that are listening to this, that need to help to get their deal done. They need a sponsor, they need help with fundraising, they need help on how to do it. So contact me for that, because I can help you take your deal to the finish line and get it funded, because multifamily is a team sport and you cannot go it alone. Trust me, I tried. You need
Both
to team
have.
up with people. Yeah. And that's how you do it. That's the way you get started. That's one of the, and I'll talk about my book too, 5 Ways to Buy Apartments with Zero Down. It's on Amazon. And then it's also on my website, which is zerodownapartments.com. And that's one of the things I talk about in there. If you find a good deal, and by the way, don't go for a $50 million deal like Brooke did when you first start.
I went for, actually, it was a $131 million deal. And out of 15 people, I got to talk to, and I think it was at Tuesday morning investments, got one, but I got so damn close. So it's okay. When you have good people around you, you'll kick ass and you'll tackle it. But back to you.
Yes. So yeah, the book goes into a bunch of ways to do it, a lot of ways to get involved, but one of them is to find a deal and bring it to someone like me, and I can take it to the finish line for you. And that way you get on the GP, you can put it on your resume, you have assets under management, you can say you own that many units. It might be a smaller percentage when you start, but that's where we all start, and that's how you get started. So I would strongly suggest that. My Instagram handle is @1BradPickett with 2 T's. And then I also have a group on Facebook called the Multifamily Mafia. And that's just an area where we share a lot of information as well. So happy to help you guys get deals funded. Reach out to me. I'll even give you my email. It's brad@massive.capital. And if you have a deal, all I can say is do your best to underwrite it. Do your best to make it complete. Do your best to know what you're doing. Obviously, you don't know it. None of us know everything in this industry. I'm learning every day. But do your best to submit something that's viable, that we can actually work with, that is complete with the T12s, the rent rolls, the underwriting done as well as possible. And if it's a good deal, man, we can get it closed for you. And I'd love to work with you.
I love that. Any final words of wisdom to everybody out there listening? What would you like to end this on?
I would just say that life is short. Go after what you want in your life and just be relentless. Work hard. You've got to work hard, man. I mean, I've tried to do this. I've tried to do a lot of stuff in real estate, where I try to figure out how I can have other people do it. No, you just got to do it. You have to do it yourself. There's no shortcuts. Just work as hard as you possibly can and go get what you want, because you and your family deserve it. Let's go.
Let's go, vamos. Mi gente. I love it. Brad, always such a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time with me this morning and dropping so much wisdom. I hope this inspired you guys. After we share this on YouTube, please drop any questions around. This should get released probably in the next few weeks. So Brad, I appreciate you. I'm going to stop recording if you want to hang out for a second. Bye.